Hey everyone, Anthony here, and today we'll be diving into a sort of sensitive matter philosophy. A trigger warning for anyone concerned. We'll be talking about some grim stuff, so apologize in advance. So, back to what I was saying. Last video, I said that employing the existence of God to explain a scientific matter was a fallacy of reason. That fallacy of reason is what we call the God of the gaps. See, back when science still wasn't advanced enough to explain certain events and phenomena, scientists and thinkers would employ the existence of God to explain those said events. For example, Aristotle, a philosopher and mathematician from ancient Greece, around 384 BC to 322 BC, would employ the existence of God to explain the movement of the stars and, in fact, would propose a geocentric model to explain our Earth's rotation. Geocentric meaning the Earth being in the middle of the solar system, or simply put, the belief that the universe, stars and planets alike, would revolve around us. He would go on and say that beyond this earth lies the domain of the gods, and that we cannot figure out what lies ahead of that said domain, because we are mere mortals. Of course, we all know now that it is gravity that affects the movement of celestial bodies in space, and that the sun doesn't revolve around us, but quite the contrary. The term used to describe this concept, where the Earth revolves around the sun, is called heliocentric. Excuse me. That right there is God's power over our reality, receding as we know it. Employing the instances of God to explain scientific phenomena, it's that like science has yet to have explained, is a fallacy of reason, since God would only be a conditional source to explain the unknown. Therefore, with science evolving, God's power would keep shrinking and shrinking. Now that that's out of the way, I think it's time we talked about philosophy, because if we don't believe in God or religion, then what should we believe in? Well, according to Albert Camus, yourself? Let me explain. Albert Camus, a French philosopher of the 20th century, proposed that life and everything we know of it has no meaning at all, and that no deity has or would give us that meaning. In fact, our search for a continuous search for meaning in life and the resounding silence of the universe is the absurdity of his philosophy, which is called absurdism, funnily enough. Absurd, according to Oxford Dictionary, by definition, is an adjective to describe something wildly unreasonable, illogical, or even inappropriate. This term is specifically used to describe how unreasonable and how dumbfounding our lives are. I mean, imagine this. Let's say you're a hardworking married man. Life is alright and you're living happily ever after. Then suddenly you learn one morning that your parents have passed away. Your grief is unbearable, but you still decide to go to work. Then on that same day you are cut off because the company isn't making enough money. Now your day has gone really bad. But to add insult to injury, your wife gives you a divorce notice saying that, I'm sorry, but we need space to think about our future. I know this is heavily unlikely, but please bear with me. After that horrible day, you drop to your knees in your backyard and yell at the top of your lungs, "Why is this happening to me?" No answer. You yell again, "What do I do now?" Yet again, silence. You screaming to the universe for a reason, for help, for something in response to your suffering, but nothing in return. The universe stays silent. There's no explanation for your suffering and for the life you have. All that you truly have is your mind and your body, wits and strength, blood and tears. That's just absurd. This might sound a bit sad and nihilistic, but your life in the grand scheme of things is meaningless. Of course, according to this philosophy. This is one of the many ways to see things. We are hopeless against the evils of the universe, of the suffering, or even death. Sorry, but that kind of turned dark pretty fast. But all of this is important to understand the point of view of an absurdist. Now, you might be asking, okay, so what now? Do we just keep suffering? What is the meaning of life? How do we even find it? Please, one at a time. But mind you, those questions are very valid. In fact, absurdists have tackled these questions. Some are more shocking responses than others. Like, for example, Albert Camus said that the literal meaning of life is whatever you're doing that prevents you from taking your own life. He didn't say taking your own life, but you know, I think you can understand what I'm trying to say. But to put it more softly, what he meant is that your meaning in life, you might never find it. You're the one responsible for finding your purpose or your calling, but there's no guarantee in you finding it. You know the universe won't do it for you, since you know it won't answer your desperate calls, but the interesting part isn't finding that meaning, but the journey trying to find it and to finally embrace the absurdity of life. Trying and getting out of your comfort zone, exploring, learning, all of that is part of life. So next time you feel down or that maybe your life is in shambles, do this. Set yourself a goal. For example, I'll be making my bed every day and wake up strictly at 7 a.m. and sleep at 10 p.m. and hone my body in a gym. Work towards that goal. If completed, find a new one. Feeling bored and incomplete, find another goal. Setting goals, having an undying curiosity, and an open mind is crucial when setting these goals. At the end of the day, you want to make your life your project. If the project doesn't have a direction, how can you complete it? That, my dear viewers, was absurdism summed up by me. Don't click off the video yet. There's still more. The there are other philosophies that deny God's existence or even imply that God died, and that most importantly, we kill him. Anyways, that's what Friedrich Nietzsche said, a German philosopher of the 19th century, known for his many critiques on religion, psychology, and the concept of morals, said about our society and in the direction it's evolving to. According to Nietzsche, we as a society, since the start of the Renaissance and the great scientific and philosophical enlightenment in that time, have started to diverge ourselves from religion. We used to always answer our moral quarrels by asking a priest at a church or going to a confession room to relieve ourselves of mental strain. But these days, we build our own moral compasses, barely go to church to answer our questions, and instead depend on ourselves instead. The rise of atheism in that time also contributed to our detachment to religion and our search for our own meaning without the help of God. Kind of like absurdism, but this time, mind you, instead of embracing the absurdity, you'll be the one creating your own morals and your own meaning to life. This philosophy is called the Übermensch in German, which translates directly to Superman in English. Just like the name suggests, the goal of this philosophy is to achieve a status of Superman by creating your own values and abandoning the old doctrine you've been taught and help become a powerful source of change in the world. This philosophy, although vague, does present a lot of different interpretations. It's light specifically, but rich in meaning. I highly suggest reading Thus Spoke Zarathustra. You will get a fresh interpretation on the matter and will be able to decide if what Nietzsche spoke about corresponds with what you think is right. Because, well, there is no right answer to philosophy. It's why there are so many. It's why we can't decide on moral dilemmas. But that shouldn't stop you from doing your research and learning about them. I know a lot of what I'm saying seems to be disrespecting religion, but a better understanding of philosophy and your world around you can even strengthen your relationship with your religion, or none if you're atheist. Education and mutual understanding can bring people together despite their beliefs and can even change them. Stay educated, dear viewer, and as always, thanks for watching. COSARM out.